Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Fletch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this. Even though you missed the live party, guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes whenever I feel like it, been doing a lot more random lives, but make sure you are here, hit that subscribe, ring the bell so you never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, you can head on over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official Indian Jesus merch. You can also scroll right below this video and hit that join button. You can become a member of the channel. Of course, we do have our absolutely free Discord server. But if you join as a member right after every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday stream, we go into the voice channel where only members, you are not stuck behind your keyboard, you are on screen with me and everybody else. It is a grand old time. Come and join us. Speaking of joining us, let's say hello to our boy, our very special guest, Guamtek. What is good? What is good? Welcome, welcome, welcome. To the party, brother. Very, very, very good to have you as an official co-host.
Yeah, man, it's pretty awesome. This is my first time actually getting on, doing a live show for a little and going on for a little bit longer than like 15 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to try to do my best, but we'll see how it ends up going.
Word up, word up. We gotcha. So we do have our running poll of did you watch Xmen 97? And so right now we only have the one person who said no, but that is okay. That is okay. We will be talking a lot about it. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. But if you didn't watch the show, it's totally fine. We're going to be talking about a lot more than just what happened in the show. Shout out to the Reverend Woodrow Goodshine Ministries in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So my answer to the survey: Disney can burn like a witch during the Salem witch trials. Now, people are not too open about this. So I mean, overall, what did you think?
So first of all, I can totally say when this stuff first started coming down the line and we started seeing some of the news coming out for Xmen 97 and everything, I'm like, no, I am not supporting this. They're going to wokeify it. They're going to destroy it. And it's just going to be one more part of my childhood that they've destroyed. But I gave it a chance. And I will say I was thoroughly impressed. Not at first, but as it went on, I kept on finding myself actually being intrigued with it. So yeah, I think that people have a good reason to not trust Disney.
Yeah.
But this is the one thing I'll say, maybe give it a chance.
I feel the same exact way. I feel the same exact way. Give it a chance. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever. I think for what it's supposed to be, it really worked. You know, it kept the kind of campiness and childlike ish nature of the original show, but adapted it for us as adults. And so it was a lot more realistic and gory and explored deeper themes and stuff. And I just think that they did a really good job, and it showed that they're not afraid to stick so closely to the super woke stuff and like, oh, put a chicken in it, make her gay. Like that is for so long seeming to be the only answer that they have. And I mean, I don't know where they're going in the future. We've heard rumors that the X-Men live action movie is going to suck, but at least for right now, I'm happy that this exists as its own thing and it works and it's good. And I'm ready for season 2.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say I think we'll go into it a little bit later, but kind of where the future of Disney and Marvel lies right now is so in flux, which is actually, in my opinion, a good thing. Like, it's something to keep us ready for what might come, whether it be good or bad.
Yeah, I agree. And for somebody like me who have essentially missed the entire Infinity Saga, and then I'm just in this post-Endgame world, like, come on, give me something that's like a little bit close to that. I know it's never going to be there again, but just a little bit. And it's tough, but you know, I want to remain optimistic. And then you see something like this, it's like, all right, now we're moving in the right direction, and it still might be, I don't know, a little wishful thinking that, you know, they saw what happened with everything from Captain Marvel to She-Hulk, and they were like, oh no, get rid of the chick stuff, I don't think they're gonna do that. You know, there was woke elements in X-Men, but clearly this was something for comic book people.
Yeah, yeah, and Saturday morning kids people, you know, like just the people who woke up every Saturday morning to their X-Men, their Power Rangers, their Spider-Mans, like they know that there's a nostalgia aspect to this, that if you screw up, you are going to burn so many people off of this, even more so than the comic book nerds and the normies that go and watch their comic book movies.
Right. Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you about, because I'm more of one of those casual normie viewers. I never watched the comics. You know, I did watch the Saturday morning cartoons, but more so just as Saturday morning cartoons, as opposed to getting into the stories and all that stuff. So going back to the original 90s show, how, I mean, obviously we all loved it, but how much of a, like, at the time, was that seen as like a good adaptation of the comics, or was it just like it's good, but it's its own thing, and you know what I mean?
So it did a really good job of like balancing out, doing its own thing, but still sticking to the themes of the comic book. So it did have small, well, pretty decent tie-ins to the comic books. It was just a little out of order, and it was very much so just go with what's already the big storylines in the comic books. And then it kind of had its own little, like, you know, villain of the day kind of stuff too. So it was kind of a good smattering of all of it while
Yeah,
also sticking to its own thing.
that makes sense, and that makes sense why it was so accessible to people who weren't into the comic books. I mean, again, if we're talking 90s, like the like right now, there's a whole like separate genre that's superhero stuff. So you tend to either be into superhero stuff or not into superhero stuff. Whereas the X-Men specifically, but you know, X-Men, Spider-Man, all those, at that time it was just more, you know, pop culture. It was just a different show. This one just happens to be you know, about this universe. And you know, the, I guess the connectivity of everything is Marvel's kind of, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's really cool that everything does connect, but creating such a need for that connectivity puts a lot of stakes on everything that you do.
Yeah.
What do you think about all that?
Yeah, and the connectivity with all of the movies and whatnot, like it's not like that doesn't happen in the comic books. But now they're going down a road where they have to be very careful with what they do because it has to follow along in a certain storyline, or it'll mess itself up. Like that's pretty much one of the big problems that we started seeing after Endgame. It's like they just had no idea where to go.
Which
You know,
universe was Steve in?
yeah, who's going to be the big bad guy? Who's going to be the big superhero leader and all that stuff? We lost Cap, we lost Iron Man. So like, what are we going to do from here? Let's just experiment. Oh, girl summer basically at that point. And it's like, you can't do that if you want to continue having people be invested in your storyline.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's. I mean, definitely they put so much thought into, you know, the at least the first three and a half, 4 phases. But then after that, I don't know if they expected. I don't know if they expected to be able to have to need to be you know, planning decades in the future. Let's shout out our boy, the Reverend Woodrow Good Shine Ministry, starting us off hot with the $10 super chat. Of course, every donation comes with a treat. For my co-host Morty said, why did they murder Rogue's butt? Why did they take away something that is considered an aspect of Southern women? I know it's petty. Still, the message is tearing down something that works. So, I mean, I don't know how serious of a question this is, but it does bring up an interesting point that I didn't notice the figures of the women in any like sexual way. I mean, I think as a kid, you know, you're watching these drawn adult women. That's a little different. Like, oh, she's hot, but like I see other women that aren't drawn, and it did at no point did it take me out of the story to be like, hey, her butt used to be bigger. And so this is why I one of many reasons why it's like if people didn't like the show, all right, I enjoyed it. I know what was in there. If you're gonna say that it can't be good because of this and that, fair enough. But I feel differently.
Yeah, and trust me,
Thank you.
I
Gentlemen.
totally get it. I totally get it, Woodrow. Like that was iconic back in the day, you know. Like, but I will say that it is a difference in art style to begin with. So if you notice, the art is not one to one like it was in the '90s series. So I can understand a little bit of redesign. I can understand a little bit to make it go with the art style. It is a little more on the blocky side. It's a little more like more color work rather than, you know, line work and whatnot. And I will say it sucks. It really does suck. But that seems to be something that they were doing to cater, yes, to the Wokies, but also you can't disregard a really good story and really good character development because of an art style. Like if the story can speak louder than the art and louder than the wokeness, I think it's doing something pretty damn good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know, we were talking about this the other night about, you know, the style of animation, and it's like really good compared to the original show. And then I happened to I realized that as I'd canceled Netflix and I was looking for stuff to watch on Amazon, there's a bunch of South Park specials that had been made in the past couple of years that I missed, and so I'm watching them and I'm enjoying them fully. And then into my noggin pops something that you said about the quality of the animation. Do you watch South Park?
Oh yeah.
Do
Well,
you enjoy it?
not quite so much anymore. Like I fell off, but I was following it for a really, really long time.
Okay, so if we are talking about level of animation, and you're like, oh well, I watch Attack on Titan and it's so perfect. You see how the lips are. Why is it? Oh, why is it not difficult for you to watch South Park?
Because I watched that for the comedy and for basically just how far they're willing to go.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's fair. It just seems like I don't get it. I think if you can, if the story matters, is what matters. So like, I mean, especially originally, South Park, you know, it was just the pieces of paper and everything. But because the story was good and the characters were good, it's a good show.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have one more thing actually to say about the rogue's butt thing. If if you get to the Goblin Queen episode and that doesn't make up for it, I think something may be wrong with you.
Ooh, yeah, and I mean, so that's again, I feel like a lot of superficial stuff that people are like, oh, there's a they them in it, or oh, there's a lot of women in it, and it almost seems to forget like the story of X-Men in the first place is essentially a woke story. Like it by its nature, we wouldn't call it that because of how they did it, but it's a story about people who are oppressed and don't fit in and all that stuff, which is what wokeism turned into, and obviously they took it way too far.
Mm-hmm.
But X-Men hit on that perfectly without going too far.
Yeah, and I will say another woke aspect of it that hit me immediately when I was watching it was like they are doing a lot of basically taking a lot of the politics and the problems that we've had today, especially on the right, and kind of imbuing the main bad guys in the show with it, like the main group of people who are getting together against the humans and stuff like that. Like if you look at it, I think my wife and I were watching it and we were trying to find out like how many people of color are there in this bad guy group. and we saw like 2. It's like, okay, we see what you're doing. We see the whole like January 6th analogy and everything like that. Like, we get it. All right.
So I mean, I hear you. I disagree though. I think that it's an easy layup to have like all the bad guys be white. Like, okay, fine, whatever. Again, not going to take me out of the story. I mean, hey, all the good guys were, or rather, all the bad guys were either brown or Russian in every movie I saw growing up. So like, I see what they're doing there too. And so that's kind of what I mean though about how it is a story about that. And so to have it in such a way, and again, I'm not supporting that we should force this stuff in there, but my point is just that it doesn't take away from the value of the story. I think the story itself has enough value. The characters are fleshed out enough. Even the with Morph, the one the shapeshifter guy that they turned into a they them. It's like the entire. I think there was 2 moments, maybe 3. There was one where Wolverine's, in the shower and there's like a bunch of steam and Morph walks by and just like, oh, or some shit like that. 2 seconds. Then there might have been something else at the end that I forget. But then the other moment was actually like a really heartfelt moment for the characters. And, Wolverine is not doing so great. And Morph turns into Jean Grey, who obviously Logan's loved forever. And then when you see that Morph, they're framing it as Morph likes Wolverine and Wolverine likes Jean and Jean's with Scott, and then Morph turns into Jean so that Wolverine can hear Jean Grey say, "I love you. You have to hang on," or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And not only that, did you notice?
Okay, but
did you hear? Right? Did you hear Wolverine right before that happened?
I don't. What are you referring to?
So right before Morph turned into Jean, the whole reason he turned into her. At first, when I first watched it, I thought it just happened, just because it's like, oh, I'm Morph and I can do it. Mm-hmm. But I watched it again last night with my wife, and right before he turns into Jean, you hear Logan on the bed, and he just goes, "Jean."
I missed that. That.
So
wow.
and Morph is looking at him when he says that, and that's when he goes, well, she can't do it for you, but I can.
Bars. Shout out to Joe Mama. Welcome to the party. So I think Xmen was partially inspired by the Red Scare of communism. So I'm going to throw that to our resident lifelong nerd. And any comments on that?
Sort of. I mean,
when did it start? In the 60s?
Yeah, like, I mean, okay. I think it would be a little bit more to do, because communism was like working its way into everything at that point, so like, it's like, yes and no. I don't think that was the main reason or the main topic that they were going with on there. It was more civil rights, that kind of thing, even gay rights and that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that communism did kind of work its way in there because of the fear of the other, basically, and also having like all of these tribunals and courts to try to figure out like who was the bad guy here. I can see that kind of playing into it, but again, I don't think that was the main part of it.
Yeah, and that again is the way that Xmen is built is that it is such a good analog. It is such a good metaphor for so many different types of issues. That's why it was, if it was originally about racism, then it was so easily moved into something that's more about, the gay trans stuff, and which was relevant at the time. It was relevant whether you like it or not, and where it's gone or any of that. It is what it is. And it worked as a good analog. Reverend said, "I'm a Southern man raised around Southern women. Rogue was the beautiful embodiment of a lot of women I grew up with. Rogue's butt was a symptom." Well, fair enough. Fair enough. So did you remember a lot of the original series going into the new season?
To be completely honest, I didn't rewatch it or anything like that, but I do specifically remember a lot from that show. Like, dude, it was like my life back then. Like, I I would wait all week just to get to Saturday and watch that show. And then when it started coming to weekdays, dude, I was on it every day like clockwork.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I never had, I never had like a huge collection of like, action figures and just stuff. I had a few here and there. And like when they went to like the red team, gold team, and they had the yellow and brown version of Wolverine, I had that action figure. I was like, oh, yo. And again, even somebody who's not been into it like that for my whole life, like, again, it was big during my childhood, but so were a lot of things, and for it to be able to come back around and be that nostalgia bait, but also have the weight is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Real quick on that action figure for Wolverine, was that the one where you could take his cowl off?
I don't think so.
Okay,
so I'm pretty sure I would have lost that.
That may have been after the series that I got the action figures. I actually was into Xmen before the animated series came out.
Oh, my dad over here.
My dad bought me when I was like 3 or 4 years old a giant box of comic books. I think actually multiple boxes. And so I knew about the X-Men, and then I watched the original X-Men cartoon. They only made a pilot of it. They never got to make an actual full-on cartoon, but I always remembered that. And I'm like, this is the X-Men. Like, I love this shit. Then they came out with the toys, and it was the designs from that cartoon and from the X-Men arcade game. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep.
I had that.
And so, I remember those toys. And then when the new X-Men series came out, new at the time, the 90s series, I was blown away. Like, I was actually confused because I had the brown and yellow Wolverine. That's all I knew was brown and yellow Wolverine. And then he has the yellow and black. And I'm sitting there and I keep asking my dad, I'm like, who is this?
Yeah, right.
Who is this? And he's like, that's Wolverine. Don't you know, dummy? He has the claws.
Yeah. Well, let's shout out again, out sponsoring his damn self, the Reverend Woodrow. Good. Shine Ministry. You got to come on camera to get it, bro. You got to come on camera to get it. There you go. That's what the people paying for. And actually, I'm so glad that you bring this up. Reverend says, I will defend Fallout, but I did not like X-Men. Greek culture is weird, man. Have any of you read the words of Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, or Frank Miller? The politics were implied, never forced. I like that part. So let's take that. Let's take that in pieces and go backward. So the aspect of the politics being implied and never forced. That is the key. That is the key. Even if you're going to push a message that I personally don't agree with, I can get behind your story if it is a well-told story and the politics are implied. Because again, I don't have to agree with everything. I just have to understand that I can give myself up to this as a story.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the case, but even still, once you started getting into the 80s and stuff like that, it started getting pretty political. Like the whole storyline of God loves, man kills was about like genociding mutants. And it was by the humans, like they literally had like their version of I'm trying to we'll just say white nationalists. But they were like very violent. They were killing mutants. I think the comic book really started out literally with like them killing 2 children, mutants. Dang. And it goes from there. So like it did get pretty political, but I can understand what he's saying. Like there was always that background part of it of like they're fighting for their rights. They're trying to be seen as normal people and whatnot. But it did get pretty political.
Yeah, and so maybe Reverend, you can let us know if we're off base, but maybe are you talking about like the politics serving the story rather than the other way around? Like with She-Hulk, it was like, okay, here's the points that we want to hit. What story can we make around that? As opposed to here's the story that we want to tell. What political aspects are involved with that story? All right, so then moving back, the words of Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, or Frank Miller. I know those guys. Obviously, I know who Stan Lee is, but I know the other two are writers for comics. But like I said, I've not been into. I'm sure I've read a comic before, but I'm not a comic book reader. What about you?
So it's been a little while since I've got to pick up some comic books and stuff, but yeah, I mean, they're definitely some of the best. They came up with some of the best stories and whatnot. So again, I think that there were stories that were very much kind of thrown in your face, that the politics of it were what mattered. Um, Not the majority, though. I will say that. However, the minority that did get political were some of the best stories that they had.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So then so Fallout. Did you see Fallout the show?
Nah, I haven't got to yet. I actually never really followed Fallout. Like I watched my friends play it and stuff like that. I never got to play it myself. I know a little bit of the lore, but it just never really hit me as something that's like, oh, this is like amazing. I cannot wait to follow this storyline.
Yeah, I've never, again, I'm not a gamer any more than I'm a comic book person. And so, I mean, again, I've heard of Fallout. I knew that it's a game and it had to do with shooting and first person stuff or whatever, or was it third person? I don't even know. You know what I mean? But that type of game. And I originally didn't watch the series because I had heard that it was Tim Pool talking about how he was upset because when he was watching with his girlfriend, then he knew all the lore, but it was kind of implied in the show and not really explained. So he had to kept stopping it to explain things. I could see how that would be annoying, but also, if his girlfriend had watched it alone and didn't know that there was something missing, as I did, I watched it alone, not knowing what I was missing. It seemed to come together pretty well. So I'm, going back to Reverend. What is it about Fallout and the tie to the source material that's the difference for you? Because if anything, I would say that at least from what I know, the Xmen 97 is a much closer adaptation to source material than the Fallout show.
Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I haven't got to watch it, but I do know what Tim's talking about because I watched with my wife, and there were like multiple times where I'm stopping and I'm like, okay, this is gonna happen, and this person means this, and you look forward to this, like. Yeah, she had to tell me to stop every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that brings up a balance of who is the audience for this stuff, and I think they, instead of trying to make every property for everybody, they should have some that are more like for normie people, and then more and some deeper cuts. I think if they went that way, then number one, you wouldn't have to do the homework of watching every single thing that you're not really into. They do a pretty good job of filling in the gaps anyway. And then you could experiment more. And like Virtual saying right here, the Marvel characters are always psychologically disturbed, and you knew that because they had the time to explore those characters. I think part of this whole conversation has to do with the larger landscape of the streaming wars and all that stuff, where if you got a slate in the 90s for a cartoon show, you could tell a story 50, 60 episodes. And now trying to shove everything into 10 episodes to make sure that you even get season 2 in the first place, which then hinders your ability to stretch things out because you have to force it into that first season. It's a between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. And what Virgil was saying about them being, disturbed and whatnot, that's always why I liked Marvel more than DC, was because Marvel definitely seemed a lot more human, honestly. Every character had their flaws. Every character, they were a little bit more grounded. Whereas DC, it was a lot of like godly type stories or like universal threats. And it's like, those are cool. I love power scaling and all that stuff, but like, it starts to get to a point where it's just like, this is just pure just fantasy, basically. Whereas Marvel, you can actually learn from the characters and feel like they're dealing with some of the same stuff that everyday people deal with, like Spider-Man. Like who would be able to be a superhero, keep a job and a girlfriend, getting married, going to college, getting yelled at by your boss constantly, having to keep up with going to your aunt's house all the time and keeping up with her, and saving the damn New York all over in one fucking night. Like,
that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, Santa, I guess the whole world in one night, but that's his only job. So everyone's pushing back on you and saying in the 80s and 90s were never overtly political. So are we talking the comics in the 80s?
Oh,
it did get pretty overtly political. So we're saying the comics were getting overtly political in the 80s and 90s, or the TV shows?
sorry. I think it cut out a little bit on my side.
Testing.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah.
So you're asking about whether the comics got overtly political?
Yeah. So you were saying they did. He's saying they're not. So I'm wondering if one of you is talking about the comic books and one of you is talking about the TV show.
Again, I'm saying that the majority of them didn't, but the ones that did were some of the best storylines.
I agree, and I think as he's saying that politics were the seasoning, the meat was the story. I think we can all agree on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they were going to the damn president in every comic book and being like, "We need these rights," and starting a damn riot and stuff like that. Like, okay, if that's the case, sure, but like, if you're dealing with a group of people throughout the entire United States and around the world who are like, screw the muties, like we're going so far that we're literally hunting you down and killing you, like, I think that's pretty political.
Oh, I agree. And there's but again, that's to what Woodrow was saying, that's the way it should be done, that it is a political story, not a story fettered with politics. And I mean, if you don't know what I mean, then like that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you know, then you know. It's just you can clearly see the difference between. Again, I mean, She-Hulk is the easiest example of what are we doing here? Oh, we're trying to tell these political points, and then it just so happens that the backdrop is She-Hulk,
right? And you also have to think about, like, okay, maybe X-Men 97 is more political than the stuff from the 80s and whatnot, if that's the case. I would also say, what did they do with it? It's not like they were just sitting there saying, like, these are the politics and you have to go by this. They were actually making statements of, like, how would people try to even out this whole world of new powers and whatnot coming in? Do we give them their own nation state? Do we, like, sanction them or try to put laws on them or try to stop them? Like, they did go into that pretty well. It wasn't just like, well, we're just going to try to make. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. I'm just. It wasn't just like the propaganda and stuff.
Yes.
Shout out to Jedi Mike in the building. Welcome to the party. Yes, indeed. We are talking about X-Men 97. Kind of just vaguely about pop culture and all that stuff, but through the vein of the show. Did you watch it? It was the new one. I thought it was great. Welcome. So Reverend says The Dark Knight Returns. Reagan went to Superman because Bats went too extreme. Then Bats beat Soups down.
Yeah.
Yep. Saw that movie. Yep. All right. But so I'd asked you about whether you had reminded yourself or kept up with the original show before watching this season, because I hadn't either. And the reason I ask is because I do think that one of the negatives that more hardcore fans would have with the show is how much was forced into one season. And even though a lot happened, and or rather, even though it all tied together pretty well,
in the original, are you talking about the original or this one?
97.
Oh, okay.
So I was saying they threw a lot of stories in there, and it felt kind of rushed. And I think, as somebody who didn't have any experience with the source of those different storylines, that it worked for me. I could tell some things were like, okay, that kind of came out of nowhere. But how did you feel about that?
I did feel like it moved pretty quick, but they did a really good job of tying up all the loose ends. And basically, even though they had to take and pick and choose from multiple different storylines to create this one, they did a good job actually of making it all come together. And even though it's, a different villain that did this sort of thing, or it was this timeline that happened and it happened differently in the comic books. I do feel like they had a good idea of where they wanted to go with this. They just needed to make the pieces fit.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So it looks like Jedi Mike's like I'm part of the press who interviews and does coverage and reviews on film and TV. So yeah, come on up and join the party.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought it the again, as somebody who watches like all the breakdowns and everything, and I'll go on have like 6 different breakdown videos. I want to see everybody's got to say. So I did get a pretty good understanding of where the where the stories in the show, like what the origins, where the sources came from. But it didn't again, unless you're somebody who is like deep into it, then I can see why you'd be upset that they squished all the stories together. But again, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it all really came to the same conclusion as what those stories would anyway, for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Let's shout out our boy Jedi Mike. Welcome.
Good. That is good.
To the party. How are you doing?
I can't wait to hear your expert opinion.
Thank you. Can you hear me properly?
Yep.
All right.
Pretty
thank you.
good.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. I haven't talked to you in a minute, man. But
yeah, man, it's been a while. So for those who are not familiar with you, who are you? What do you do? And where can people find you?
All right, so my name is Michael Sowell, but I'm also known as Jedi Mike 7. I'm part of Press Media. I'm part of Critic Association, so I do movie reviews, interview actors, directors, writers. I'm part of multiple different critic associations, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. Right now. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube and on Instagram. Instagram definitely been popping and stuff, but I go to press screenings and I do review and coverage on that. So and I'm slowly trying to grow on my YouTube right now. And everything. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to Jedi Mike 7 on YouTube and on Instagram.
Beautiful. And I am dropping the link to that channel right now. Please go check that out. Awesome. So what did you think about Xmen 97?
So the fact that, and I don't want to blow this out of proportion because I know this is an animated show. I mean, I'm slowly trying to get my wife into this and everything. Mind you, I'm a comic book reader and everything since, nice. Born and raised and everything. So, and this just showed you like this show does basically is a textbook on how you do the X-Men and how you do X-Men right? Because again, one thing I understand, we're in this generation in terms of media and coverage and everything. And right now, as a Marvel fan, we're not in terms of the medium, we're not as collectively unified as we were before pre-Endgame, right? Oh, yeah. That can deal with multiple different things, such as streaming services, the quantity of low quality product, i.e. She-Hulk, and i.e. other films that have been definitely been box office bombs like the Marvels and etc. So yeah, again, film opinions is subjective, but numbers do not lie. So yeah, and one thing for me on the side of movie criticism, I'm also part of film pundits, meaning I understand the industry, understanding the market, understanding where audiences want, and also the feedback, what they're responding to, which the most important thing, which is their dollar, right? And the one thing with this show is that hopefully Kevin Feige is paying attention to this, because understand that this show probably not get as big as numbers off rip because of season 1 and nobody was really familiar with it. But this is how you do the X-Men, and knowing that it's a popular IP. But more importantly, I think the industry take comic book out of this. This is how you just write diverse characters in the most appropriate way possible. Listen, as you can see here, on this panel, we are all different shades and different, colors of the rainbow and everything.
No whitey's allowed.
Right. But the point what I'm trying to say is this is how you talk do different types of diverse storytelling, but not in a way that's going to the agenda that's also doing disservice to the story and more importantly, the characters that we all know and love. The problem that you see different characters, ethnicities, and everything, even with Morph, which is one of the biggest things that people were complaining about in the beginning of the season. I actually felt that his presence in the show definitely had good moments, but also wasn't a distraction of what the messaging that they had with this character, obviously, or their character, them being non-binary and everything. But the point, what I'm saying is that it wasn't just up and dangling your keys, and that it wasn't a big deal. And that's the thing, is that yet he still was a valuable character to the show, but at the same time, everyone had a time to shine. We focused on Storm for 2 episodes, losing her powers. You had characters that were overpowered, but at the same time, when they were nerfed, when situations came out where they lost their powers, and then when they have their big badass moment, it was earned and it was satisfied.
Yes.
It paid off in terms of development and the arc they went in in those few episodes. So when Rogue is going out and going through different buildings and stuff and letting people die and getting pissed off, that's an emotional reaction, but it makes sense because of the loss of Gambit. Spoiler. But yeah, that's we
already did our spoiler warning. You good.
Right, exactly. This is how you do in terms of female characters, how showing of Storm relationship with Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor, just showing, hey, you know what, we can be females and we don't have to be bitches towards each other. We can just say, hey, I love you, girl, love you too. Hey, but hey, there's no like agenda or anything. We're just having a positive relationship here because we're family.
That was one of the main things that I think they did so well, was that with whatever woke agenda you want to call it, female empowerment, they did the right kind of female empowerment. They told stories about what a mother would feel. What stories do you hear about mothers anymore? That they are some of the strongest people in the freaking world right now, and no, they don't get their due in pop culture. Then you think about Rogue going through grief, losing somebody. Of course, somebody's going to act that way, and it didn't have to be a man. It didn't have to be some Broly dude going through and just murking dudes. It was believable for her. And then who was it? Storm. Her going through her loss and basically trying to remember who she is and whatnot. I thought that they did a really good job of being able to pretty much make it a storyline of something horrible happening to a woman. It could be anything. And not having to make that define you, and being above it and realizing that you still have something to offer, and no matter what, you're still going to do what a hero does, even if you can't be the person you were before, which just so happened to lead her back to where she was before. Like, these are real female empowerment stories. And it's so refreshing to see that, especially after things like the Marvels and She-Hulk.
And I mean, Storm specifically, when she lost her powers, and she was, I don't remember, I think it was right at the moment, and she was like reaching up, and then you could see the birds. Either it was then or when she was with the
she couldn't feel the moisture in the air. She couldn't.
She's like, I can't feel the wind, bruh. I felt that. And to me, it was relatable, even as I'm obviously not a woman, but as an addict who had been in this is the life that I'm used to. And now, without any change, I ran out of my anxiety medication last night. I was like, oh, well, it was a harrowing night. And rewatching Storm and being like, oh, it's so close. I went and picked up my shit today. Like, all right, we good. And so again, perfect examples of using legitimately diverse characters to tell fulfilling stories. Before you got on, we were talking about when Morph turned into Jean Grey. I was like, right. What a great moment.
Many different layers to that. Yes, you can say, well, maybe he's actually has feelings for Wolverine, which I wouldn't say he wouldn't have, and which makes sense because they're friendship. But whatever way you want to distort that, whatever. But it just made sense when he turned into Jean Grey that he was doing that for Wolverine, and making sure not to give up. Even then, also, this is another thing too. It was the small lines here. This is not Fox Kids, ladies and gentlemen. There's things. This is things back in the 90s that they couldn't do. So when you have Magneto really going through having post-traumatic stress disorder, cannot sleep well, hearing the German boots of the concentration camps, hearing those things, which you couldn't get on mainstream television, right? But then at the same time, the dynamic of also the male characters too. Obviously, you have the rift between Cyclops and Wolverine, but even then, after what happened to him, you had Cyclops like, "Hey man, don't give up on don't don't die, man. Jean needs you."
Exactly.
And
Because
he's the
he
one saying
recognizes
that.
Yeah,
And he's the one saying that. And then I'll say, as a minority, whatever you want to call it, the base of Xmen is prejudice of any form, but that can be not just prejudice of terms of race, gender, whatever, but just being who you are.
Exactly.
Parents rejecting you, literally back in the day when you going through labor, back in the day when they refused to actually, hey, I'm about to have a baby, like, no, we don't serve your kind here. Stuff like that, that's real, but it's not in a way that is going into just pounding down, but actually
feel sorry for me, please.
like, it's not victimizing, it's enlightenment of just talking about the reality of the world. And when you say lines like Magneto was right and him having this philosophical quotes, it makes sense and it has impact. But that's good writing. That's the base of anything, regardless of casting, regardless of diversity, whatever. The basis is the writing of these shows, and that's of this show particularly. This is why this should not be overlooked as just okay, that was good, but now what? No, you need to pay attention to this.
Right? Yeah, there were very, very human elements to this. Like, even as a new father, watching that episode with Jean and Cyclops losing their baby, not losing him, but like giving him away, dude. My wife cried after that episode. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, even Cyclops, the human part of him, of trying to keep it together, he's still a leader. He's still trying to do his job. He's still trying to be a man and get shit done. But even he breaks down, and he breaks down in a very normal way that most men do, where it's like everything's going fine until the moment it doesn't. And then everything floods in, and then you have this moment of explosion, and everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck, man? Like,
and it's not either, oh, look at this weak man, or, oh, look at this man being toxically masculine. No, it's like, oh, God, exactly like you said, Mike. Like, this is how you do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Look at that. That's how it's done. So being in the, on the back end and talking to people in the industry, let me lay out my, wishful thinking of what I hope is happening. And you tell me how realistic or not realistic this is.
Sure. Go ahead, man.
I think right around, obviously, Infinity War was the height of everything. The peak of interest was, between Infinity War and Endgame, and they threw Captain Marvel in there, made it seem like homework. I mean, not a terrible movie, but I mean, not a great movie by any means. And so, but because it made money, then that was a signal like, oh, we can just do whatever. Like, if we make it, what's what I'm looking for? Like mandatory viewing, we could just do whatever. And so then they were like, all right, let's try to clean up on the woke crowd a little bit. And because of the time that it takes from the moment you have the idea to the time that it's on screen, then you take into account like COVID delays and stuff like that, that they were trying to go down this woke route. And then by the time She-Hulk was out, they were already like, yo, this shit does not work. And I think that is why they dropped Echo in one day. I think that is why they kept Xmen and Deadpool for this year. And I don't know. It's wishful thinking for sure. But what do you think about it?
So let me bring it back to the terms of the timeline post getting writ like at 2020 before the pandemic, right? So Black Widow came out, which was the second female-led film. Even though that film went through a whole massive thing where it got released during the same day, it was in streaming, and then literally Scarlett Johansson had to sue Disney for that, and then but then that whole case was settled and everything. But the whole point of post Endgame in terms of content with streaming with Disney Plus, the only focus, and this was during Bob Paycheck, who was the CEO of Disney, right before Bob Iger, who also stepped down and quote unquote retired. Then he came out of retirement, fired Bob Paycheck, and then now we're back course correcting, and look where we are today. But what happened with Bob Paycheck is that his focus was just on quantity instead of quality. right? And that means to anything. So when it came to projects like Internals, project like Shang-Chi and everything, they were focusing on those things and saying, okay, let's try to expand things in other different markets. Well, Crazy Rich Asians was good, so let's make Shang-Chi. Oh, let's try to do different things, kill two birds with one stone and actually add every diverse character known man and put them in one movie and no introduction of who they were previously, and introduce 10 characters in one movie, i.e. Eternals, right? Which bombed. But even though Shang-Chi was good, it also shows you the mindset of Disney. Even then, we can say Shang-Chi was good. We can say Black Panther was good. I understand. Disney don't care about me as a Black person. Disney don't care about you as an Asian person.
Nope.
The reason why is
Money.
because they'll cater to, oh, well, it's not what you want to call racist, whatever. It's capitalism. Well, it's easy for me to make Ariel Black instead of just making a Princess Tiana movie, Princess and Frog, who's already a Black princess and stuff, and make that movie. Right, so the closest Black princess we even got is Moana. Think about this. There is no other Disney princess that turned to a freaking frog 90% of their film and stuff, except for that. And then so going back into the Marvel thing is talking about the initiative that they're trying to do, which is quantity over quality. So they don't care. So She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, even though that was a particular situation with the passing. But then after that, let's spin off this Ironheart series with Ray Williams and everything, which nobody.
They got rid of that, right? They scrapped
no, it's still coming in 2025.
Wow.
They just had yes.
I remember. I was. I've been watching a bunch of the Infinity Saga movies lately, and then I was watching one of the new Rockstars videos, and I forgot the first time they were talking about Ironheart, and I was like, hopefully the next Iron Man. I'm like, bruh, nah.
But you gotta earn it. You gotta earn it a little.
Yes, and with that, like going to now, Bob Iger, basically had the course correct and saying, listen, we're now focused on limiting our quantity of films and TV. So now we're focusing only having at least 3 max of films in a year, which with this year you only have 1 with Deadpool. But then we also have only minimum or maximum of 2 Disney Plus shows. So this year you had Xmen, and then at the end of this year you'll have Agatha, which nobody asked for either. But yeah, and then I think Marvel's What If, I think either coming late, season 3 is coming late 2024 or early 2025, but that's the next thing. But yeah, those projects though are still going through. However, after that, they're going to course correct in terms of the quantity of films, because there are a lot of things that got canceled. They're trying to announce this Vision show. They were trying to do. They're trying to focus on the other projects like Miss Marvel season 2 and other thing like that. As of right now, there's no moving forward development on that, because the Marvel showed you that, because 2 out of the 3 characters on that film are on Disney Plus, which half of the audience, or maybe even a quarter,
didn't even
watch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the things where, like, okay, we're putting a lot of content emphasis on Disney Plus, but most people are not watching it. They're watching the movies, right? So they're focusing more on their theatrical experience. I went to CinemaCon in Las Vegas, I think last month, and this is where all the theater owners, the execs are there showing the showcase of the year coming forward. But the main thing they focus, like, we need to get people back into the theaters, right? But even then, no matter what, writer's strike, actor strike, whatever, I know that's the response. People say why the Marvels failed, but the point of that is nothing's stopping anybody from watching a movie. If I wanted to go see this movie, I was going to go see it. There was a trailer out, and I know it's going to go. I'm going to go see it. Nobody watched this, but then when it came on Disney Plus, everyone's like, "Oh man, this is such a great movie!" What great? You spend $7.99 a month, and you had 10 people invited to your living room.
Yeah, that's one of the main things too. Is everybody's sitting there saying, if I don't want to go see this in the theaters, it's just going to be on Disney Plus here in a few months anyway.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. So now, like next year, you have Black Captain America, and then you have also in 2025 you got Fantastic Four, and then you have Thunderbolts as well. Blade, I think, is probably, they're not even talking about Blade, which is probably gonna be pushed to 2026. Which, even though it was announced like 5 years ago,
yeah,
almost.
right.
But yes, so it's crazy.
Just in general, what is your so you feel like they are course correcting,
Absolutely,
and they're moving in the right direction? See, I knew somebody would be like, "Yeah, you're right. You're right. I knew it. I'm always right about everything."
I get in arguments with my colleagues about this because I understand where we want to like, be hopeful about everything going on. Listen, there's no more just throwing the Avengers movie out there because today, fuck all of them. Nobody cares about Black Captain America. Nobody cares about Karen Marvel. Nobody cares about female or angry female Black Panther. Nobody cares about any of these characters now. Yeah, and we stop caring, we stop watching.
Right.
But in X-Men showed you we do like it when you do it right.
Back. If you give us something good, we will come and watch it. And so I think that they do need, that soft reboot. I forget if you were here, but I think because the first couple phases were so good and so well connected, I don't think that they anticipated like it would be that good that 10 15 20 years down the road they need to be doing all that stuff. So I think it's a transitional period. But when I love the Captain America movies. Like, I'm a tiny dude. I want to be big and strong, and then he jumps on the grenade, and it's like, then in the Sokovia Accords, he's like, fuck the government. And like, dude, that's my. But now it's like he's burned up now, and as somebody who's not into comics and was never into comics, I didn't anticipate like the timeline that like, okay, you're gonna be doing this for a long time, but what's his face, Chris Evans? Yeah, he's getting older. He ain't gonna want to do this shit anymore. Robert Downey Jr. He's done this for 10 years, and so if you miss it, then you miss it, and I don't know how you do that. I think you got to start with the Young Avengers so that you have people to build up for a long time.
I don't even think going the Young Avengers route is the right way to do it. Like, that's why I feel like this whole X-Men and Deadpool thing is leading to some kind of reboot. And I have some theories for how that might end up happening right now. I mean, there's the whole Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe thing. That we'll see.
What is that? Wait. What is that? What is that?
Deadpool.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know?
I don't know shit, bro. I don't.
Okay,
I watch the movies and I watch New Rock Stars and I watch Screen Crush. That's about it.
Bro, Deadpool murks everyone.
Look at this shit.
Everyone.
Book. God damn.
So yeah, by the way, as you see, when there's a myth when women don't like nerds, my wife did this entire thing.
Hey.
So yeah. So Deadpool, there was a comic book run where basically Deadpool killed the Marvel Universe. So he was going around on a killing spree, basically going out each iconic character within Marvel. Right now, when people are talking about with this Deadpool movie, is how is that implying in terms of the current continuity? Because there was a Disney acquisition for Fox, right? So which all those movies died, right? And then now you're seeing a lot of cameos of characters that's already been announced. Some that I actually know that has not been released yet. But yeah, like I'll probably tell you in the back chat. Basically what this Deadpool Wolverine might be in the position, because they're in the multiverse thing with the whole Void and Loki TVA stuff, that basically is going to be Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel Universe. So all those characters that you saw in the previous X-Men movies, the past Fantastic Four movies, the Elektra, Daredevil, Blades, that were all owned by Fox and everything. Yeah, those stuff is
Thanos
die. Right, and you might see those characters in this movie, in which has already been reported, rumored, and everything. So, but yeah, that's even though he's talking about what might lead into, which is Secret Wars, right? So, Secret Wars is a big. Sorry, I hope you can't hear this in the background. You hear it?
A little bit.
Okay, cool. All right, so Secret Wars is basically is a comic book storyline like Infinity War, where it's basically a whole multiversal event. So different Earths and different realities colliding with each other. This is similar to what DC did with Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? But the reason why they did that is because during that time there was different versions of characters, different timelines and stuff, and basically was a complete mess. Right. So the comic book industry was like, or DC and Marvel, like, you know what, let's create an event where we just have a clean slate. Right. So this timeline, this reality dies and everything, but we're going to have a big crossover. Hence, that's what Crisis on Infinite Earths was for DC, which for Secret Wars is the same thing. You have different realities coming together. Some worlds will live, some will die. Characters will fight alternate versions of each other. And then ultimately there'll be a clean slate and then we have one continuous continuity. Now, this involves Doctor Doom. This involves many different famous characters, particularly with the Fantastic Four, which is what they're building up to. However, there's two different Secret Wars comic runs with in the comics, but they're probably gonna do the most recent one in 2015 with Doctor Doom and stuff, which they tease in Deadpool. But the point about it is with the current reboot is because think about it. Since the inception of the MCU, we have not had every single character in one house, right? There have been characters off on umbrella. Okay, we got Xmen over here, we got Spider-Man over here, and then now we slowly got all of our toys in one box, but it's still different continuity now. When you try to bring the X-Men, you're like, well, how can I bring the X-Men in? Because they're a whole race. Where are the X-Men? Where are they even at?
Yeah,
right, exactly. So what I think is going to happen is that whatever event that's going to happen in Secret Wars, that at the end of that movie, we'll have one continuous Marvel universe where the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the Avengers, all that stuff are in one continuous universe and continuity, and the multiverse whole thing will be over, right? And and
cool idea,
right? New actors that will be recast for the next phase or new era of Marvel. So new actors will be cast. Some will come back, whatever. Some might stay the same, like Tom Holland, whatever. He's still young, he can still do other, stuff like that. But yeah, and we have a new main X-Men team, and then we move forward. No more old, versions of like, oh, let's bring Hugh Jackman back. Nope, we have a new Wolverine.
Yeah,
so that's gonna happen.
The crazy thing too with that is that the storyline that you were talking about where they brought all the universes together, like the Ultimate Universe, and they ended up having that end and brought it into the main storyline. I do think that what the MCU might be trying to do is reboot into a new Ultimate series, because they just made a new Ultimate series that came back for Spider-Man.
All right, Spider-Man, correct.
Yeah, if they're coming back with that kind of idea, like everybody thought that was dead and done. Like it's like it wasn't really selling that well. Like it had some okay stuff, but like Marvel needed to like cut back a little bit, so they cut out the Ultimate series. And I feel like that's how they're going to make their way into this new series of like, now we can reboot. It can all start from the beginning again, and we'll just call it Ultimate MCU.
Right. And you saw it with the show X-Men, like this series. Think about it. We had different cameos of many different characters, especially the finale. But here's the thing, though. Those cameos are so significant, but because of the world implications of X-Men. The fact that Magneto can just shut the power off the whole Earth, and you think nobody's gonna respond to that? You think Wakanda's not gonna respond to that, which is why when you saw Captain America, Iron Man at the end, which by the way, nobody gave a fuck about the Avengers in the 90s. It was all X-Men. Nobody was even paying attention to any of Avengers.
Well, that's why I missed out on the whole first goddamn fucking thing about this. I didn't know. I was like, another Iron Man movie. What are they doing? I was like, it's a superhero. They come in unless it's X-Men, then it's probably just some stupid. And now here we are, 15 years later. We're like, no, just bring me back. Because I'd learned about somebody had actually sat me down and was like, no, bro, trust me, like it's not what you think. After Infinity War, after I already didn't care about the ending, after I already found out. So yeah, it was cool, but to watch everything, but I didn't get to watch it with everything. And the same thing with Game of Thrones. I didn't, and it wasn't until after season 7 that somebody was like, "Hey, yo, I know it's fantasy, but it's something different."
And right.
I just speaking of Game of Thrones, spoilers for Game of Thrones as well. Their whole thing was subverting expectations. We were talking earlier about Jubilee and how her fireworks fingers, and then in the end, what's his face? What are you gonna do? 4th of July, my face, and it's like, oh, I haven't heard that one, and just murks a motherfucker. I was like, oh shit, that is how you do it. Not give her some done
right,
and with the Night King. Oh,
yeah. And what everybody gets wrong about Jubilee is they're always like, oh, she's the girl, the young one. She doesn't know anything. Bro, she's been training in the fucking same danger room that Wolverine has been training in. You don't think she knows a little bit of something by now?
Sure, but they never showed it. Like, what did she ever do? Just
Right. And she learned a new ability that she had while she was in the game,
Right.
with the mojo and her older version of herself, which, by the way, that was the original voice actor for Jubilee talking to the younger
nice.
new so
That actually kind of made me mad after what she said, the original voice actor.
What do you mean?
Because at the very beginning, when all of this was starting off, she said, I'm not going to voice Jubilee because I'm not of the right ethnicity to be able to voice her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, but you did anyway. Like, what? Come on.
Nobody cares. And I mean, good. Like, good. I'm glad that she's the wrong race and she decided to voice the character. Good. That's what we need. Stop caring about that bullshit. Start caring about good writing and fleshed out characters. That is the reason that they picked Xmen as the one to bring to. I mean, obviously they had other shows, but like we were saying, that was the one that even if you weren't into comic books, you weren't into video games, you weren't into this, you weren't into that. It just as part of shows that you watched on TV, Xmen was the one. It was the one.
Right. And I think that this goes to another conversation, which I've been having with folks about when it comes to about the diversity and, in films, TV and stuff like that. And I had to go back and forth because the whole Assassin's Creed thing happened. Right. This past weekend with that. If y'all know, are you aware of that? Oh, okay. Let me educate you. So
no, I know, but I don't know.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
And I'm sure right. Somebody else out there doesn't.
Me and him. We're
I know it's good. I'm just over here.
So basically, long story short, the next Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, I believe that's the title, is taking place in Japan or in the era of samurai. However, the samurai assassin, which everybody been asking for the longest time to have a samurai Assassin's Creed, right? Is actually the lead character is African American, or so he's black, black samurai. And people are worrying about it because they're saying, well, why are we having a black person as samurai when geographically it should be just an Asian samurai as the assassin? And then when people contract that, is talking about is this is a real actual person. He was, samurai back in the day, but yeah, he was a retainer back in the day. Now, a retainer, even though terms it's still quote as samurai, he was a bodyguard for I think an emperor or something at that time. But yeah, he came as a slave.
Okay, but there was a real black dude who
there was so it's real. It's absolutely real. Now, great. That's great if you want to make a entire game or something about that story. Okay, cool, whatever. But the problem is not talking that story. Right. The problem is that people are asking, like, why is it that in every other Assassin's Creed game before all this, you had the geographic location, whatever, and you had that character at that time frame around there, and then now you have an opportunity to have an Asian assassin Creed and everything, and then we gotta make it black. And then people are responding saying, well, this is just going to the agenda of, oh wow, look, we're trying to do something different. I think it's a cool story. But different IP. Because there's an anime show on Netflix about the actual person, and before his passing, Chadwick Boseman was actually set to play that character in a biopic back in 2019, which a lot of people don't know. But he unfortunately passed. But yeah, this is a real story, and the Japanese community accepts it. They're talking about what Assassin's Creed is. Why are you now changing a race when you have the opportunity to do an Asian assassin? It's because they're trying to go to the agenda and go for shock value. Oh, wow, this is interesting, whatever. I'm the person in the middle where even though I understand our people are outraged, like, well, it's a real actual person. At the same time, like, when you have an opportunity to do that, why wouldn't you do that? It's because I understand the market. I understand capitalism. You want to do it to say, look, look, we're doing something new. Inventive, hey, guys,
we got something for you. Like, but they could have done something so cool with that. Whereas a lot of times, some of the most well-known characters in video games are the side characters, the ones that are really fucking cool, that can do all the shit that you wish you could do. If he was that side character in the game as somebody who would, like, kind of be your mentor even, or, like, you met up with him and maybe he was even a rival character of some kind, that would be fucking awesome. But you would still be able to have the woke points. You would still be able to have an Asian main character. You could have it both ways. But of course, they wanted exactly like you said. We got to make headlines. We got to get attention.
Right. And I think the issue with is that when I was talking about my colleagues about this is that unfortunately we're in a position right now that whether Hollywood studios, companies, and everything has now trained the average moviegoer, our audience and stuff to think that when you see someone like me or no people on this panel, you get mediocre, you get agenda, you get pandering. That's and I think, and unfortunately, as an African American myself, I'm frustrated on that because they only have themselves to blame in terms of the outrage and stuff, because you have trained the average moviegoer to think because of the stories that you've been putting out. Listen, I like seeing a black character. I'm comics. I love John Stewart Green Lantern. I love Static Shock. That's the one of my most
Static Shock.
Character. Listen, this is untouchable.
There you go.
Right. And this show was ahead of its time, right? Before Miles Morales, it was this character. But aside from Miles Morales, this one's original. Just letting you know.
Nice.
So right, he's not no derivative of the character. But the thing is that you have trained the people, when you see a person of color, minor, whatever, you automatically get mediocrity. Because then when people think, when we outrage about it, we're saying, oh, what's the issue? You're seeing this? Like, no, I know what you're trying. You're trying to dangle keys and think, oh, eat this, accept this, buy this. When really, when I'm trying to see a good product and I just see a good story. And to me, I feel what you want to call the racism part is thinking that I can just be a regular character in a film. Right. And I'm bigger than racism. I'm bigger than just in my skin color and everything. And I'm not,
that, brother.
I think I think that I even talked to some, people I know that are at least in, from other communities and everything. They're like, now we can't say this, but like, I'm kind of sick of this. Like, all right, I get it. I'm Asian, but let me just watch a freaking story, which is why, like, and there's a middle ground in the media where you have the far extremists and then you have the far SJW people. That's the people that are the loudest. What is the reality is people in the middle. The rest of us, like us, we're not bigoted. We're not like saying, oh, I'm not, angry when I see a character or something like that. I'm saying, listen, I want to see me on screen, but just give me a good freaking story. Don't try to tell me, hey, we're making this blackity black.
So where do you stand on the whole recast T'Challa thing?
Oh, do it, because that's real racism. You ain't gonna tell me T'Challa died. Listen, you have eight Batmans or something, whatever. You have 7 some different Supermans. You have 3 Spider-Mans. And guess what? Christopher Reeves fell off the horse and got paralyzed. Superman didn't fall off the horse and get paralyzed. So you ain't gonna tell you don't recast any of these white superheroes and stuff, but you say, nah, we want to honor the legacy and keep this Negro dead. Fuck that.
And shout out to Xmen's movie reviews. Like I didn't have a perception of that. I was just like, oh, okay, they're respecting it, makes sense to me. Like I just didn't think about it any deeper. And then I heard him going on, but I'm like, huh.
Right. And
I'm like, oh shit.
You see the comments and you see what people were like. I'm telling the conversation in the industry, like we're in the rooms, we're talking about this, like about casting and rumors here. I'm like, listen, well, especially the third Black Panther that's gonna be made, which is confirmed and everything. A male Black Panther will be in there and everything. And
male T'Challa.
Right, T'Challa.
Right. I didn't even notice this, but again, shout out to Xmen, brought up the fact that they used T'Chaka. And the
which is a plot hole, because in the original series,
did you know this, Guamtek?
Okay.
I know some shit you ain't know. Let's go.
All right, got another one. I'm making a video on this. I'll educate you a second time.
This is the second movie. Is that what you're talking about?
No. In Xmen 97.
Xmen 97.
Oh yeah.
It came out yesterday. So you saw Black Panther cameo, right? And you saw Black Panther speaking. Now, if you see the voice audio and you see people speaking dialogue, the subtitles, it says T'Chaka, not T'Challa.
Captain America, or Steve Rogers says, "Oh, well, King T'Chaka." He's
right. Now, if you go back to 1992, when the Fantastic Four animated series, which didn't have a long run, premiering and everything, that's when the T'Challa Black Panther will actually appear, which is also reminiscent to his first appearance in the comics, which is a Fantastic Four comic. He was going there to avenge his father's death. We saw the scene of him father being killed by Claw and everything, and he said, "I'm going to live to avenge my father's death and everything." And then here we go. We see him in Xmen 97. We see him in other anime series, which all this is connected. And one of the producers of in the Marvel Studios, who's in charge of all the animation and everything, he's saying, yeah, all the anime shows past then and now it's connected. Well, then that's a plot hole because T'Chaka is dead, right? And it's not like, and I was watching that at the same time. Wait, he said T'Chaka, so what's going on here? And now you're going to act like that death didn't even happen. Now, are you doing that because of the T'Challa thing? But also it gets deeper though, because Bo DeMayo, who's the producer, got fired, right? Someone asked that, saying, "Hey, why is King T'Chaka in there? Is he dead? Whatever." And he said, "It wasn't my decision."
Of course.
So what you realize is that
Clearly,
he
yeah,
knew that this was a continuity error, but he wasn't. He was told, "Oh yeah, we're doing this." He is, mind you, he was in charge of everything will goes and stuff like that. But with this particular thing, that's continuity error. It was out of his control why T'Chaka was the Black Panther we saw in the finale.
And
why?
And things like that. That's usually something that I would brush off and be like, guys, like, it's a plot hole, like, but you just see, specifically with T'Challa, you just see over and over and over and over. It's like, oh, okay, we can use his voice in What If, but we're gonna kill him 3 times. Like, if you need to honor the character and not use him, then don't use him. But if you can use him, then use him. And exactly what you said about Christopher Reeve fell off the horse. Superman did not.
Oh, by the way, I see Virgil. I'm not ridicule. I'm just making a point. When that incident happened, Superman still continued. It was not. You don't end a character because the actor, even back in the original Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, he actually broke his back. Right, Tobey Maguire, and he was going to be replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal, who eventually played Mysterio in the new Spider-Man movies. They were going to replace him because they think, oh, he can't. Tobey Maguire can't recover, so we're probably going to.
That joke in No Way Home, like, oh, my back. Yeah, what was it? The scene where he fell from he was trying to, when he lost the powers, he was jump, and then he fell onto the car and really hurt his back in that scene.
Yeah. So, and by the way, there's a documentary on Christopher Reeves coming in, I think September. About his upbringing, his life, and after the incident and everything. So it was actually a very inspirational story. But yeah, go check that out. It's coming out in the fall. But yeah,
interesting. So let's talk a little bit more granularly about the actual events of the show. Let's just go broad strokes. What did you like in terms of, obviously we talked about the whether you like the animation or not, whether you like the writing or not, but just broad strokes in terms of plot points. What worked for you and what didn't?
Go ahead. No, go for it. Okay. I'd love to hear your side of it.
I appreciate it.
Follow that. All right. I would have gone first.
So there was the main 2 storylines they were talking or focused on was the E for Extinction storyline and also Zero Tolerance, which center around the character Bastion, which is a hybrid human sentinel and everything. Now there were some different changes in the comics that they did with this character, but they actually made him in a more personal villain because this is a human now turned to a sentinel, and out of his own control. It's still growing up and everything as a mutant, getting his powers, awakening and stuff like that, right?
I mean, he wasn't a big deal at all in the comics, right?
No, a lot of people didn't even know who he was, and which it goes back into. This show was made by comic fans, right? You have, and then this also encouraged viewers to go read comics, right? And watching like, hey, I don't have to just watch X-Men and have Magneto the villain the whole time. Like there's other villains in X-Men that they go into, and Bastion has never been in any other TV show, any other movie, live action movie or anything. So this is relatively new for a lot of people, but he's been here this whole time. But yeah, so that storyline, the massacre, genocide, and Genosha was that was I like the recreation of that, even though it's with a different character who was actually going to be in Deadpool and Wolverine, Cassandra Nova, who's the evil twin of Professor X and stuff. That's a whole nother thing. It gets crazy, but yeah. But I go like the fact that they also go into iconic moments of Magneto running the X-Men, him had the trial of Magneto, like famous comic covers of him in that M costume and stuff like that. It's ripped right out of the comics. The Storm storyline, which was the Love and Death comic.
I had some real quick. I had some hater come in. Someone. Were you there, Guamtek, when we were talking about this the other night? And he who shall not be named comes in like, oh, they made it gay and Storm. They gave Storm a mohawk. Like,
yeah, and that's what I told him. I'm like, now I know you're not an X-Men fan. Because she had a mohawk a long time ago.
Shout out to Dylan Soup in the building. Welcome to the party. But sorry, Jedi, you were saying.
Yeah, so those those storylines I like the Wolverine, the Madeline, come on, the Goblin Queen, come on. In 20 minutes, Goblin Queen, that takes a minute to get to, and they did that in the first 3 episodes,
right? And then
the whole Madeline Pryor, like,
yeah, and so for somebody like me who understands that, like, okay, I see what's happening, that there's a lot that's being missed out, and they're taking parts of this story and that story and that story, and smushing it together. But again, as somebody who didn't know any different, like, it worked. The biggest thing that didn't work for me as just again a casual person who knows about this stuff from the shows was the fact that I remember the Phoenix was like a big thing, and then it was just like out of nowhere, just like, I'm the Phoenix now. Wait. All right. Okay, I see what you're doing, but
Yeah, but I mean, the Phoenix did kind of just like go off on its own thing.
Yeah,
after they solved the Dark Phoenix problem. So she still had a piece of it with her the entire time, but it was always more related to whether or not it wanted to help, or if she was digging down deep into something she really, really felt was important.
She was digging down? What?
Digging down deep into something she felt was really important or not. So she can use the Phoenix Force, but like it has to be like a do or die moment.
Okay. I mean, I think it would have been like if they tried to tell just like one storyline and they used 10 episodes to do it. I don't think it would have hit. You like, I think from here, now that again we Mike, before you got here, we were talking about how streaming the streaming landscape has changed how you can approach doing a show, and you might get a slate for 20 episodes or something, versus now you'd be lucky to get 6, and this got 10. And so that makes sense. But hopefully this will now give the green light for like, okay, let's do at least a 3-season slate. And they already are doing stuff over multiple seasons. So
yeah.
And as far as like outside the plot stuff, because I can totally agree with you. I really think all of those plot points were really freaking awesome to go with. But I love what they did with the characters in this, that they really showed you the interactions between all the characters, and especially Magneto and Professor X. I wasn't expecting them to go that deep into it.
In the finale.
Their friendship go the way that it did, and understand why they respect each other so much and whatnot, but are just on different sides of the same coin. And I mean, not only that, I love the way that they did the villains in this, because every other show wants to just be like villain, bad guy. He just bad guy. Or they go the other route of, well, nobody's really a villain. Yeah. Everybody has their reason for it. They had 3 villain archetypes in this. And my wife was the one that pointed this out. They had the villain archetype who is just the evil guy. Mr. Sinister, right? He's just an evil shithead. And he did horrible things. And by the end of it, even the first moment you see him, you're like, fuck that dude. Okay, so then you have the other villain archetype of the person who you can understand what he's trying to do and why he's doing it. He's just going about it the wrong way. Magneto, obviously, he was very Thanos-like, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And then you had the other villain, which I thought they did such a good job with, Bastion, who he was a villain out of his victimhood.
Mhm.
He was a victim the entire time through his entire life, and he had to grow up with knowing all of this shit was going to happen and still basically have to do it. And even in the end, I love the way that they ended his story of like, in the end, a victim can still be saved. A victim can still choose to stop being a victim and maybe go a different route with it.
Hmm.
He just didn't have a chance to do it. Well, that
I
we
mean,
know.
I don't know that that's true. I think that is true. And to decide to maybe not become the good person, but make that choice when a Cyclops was like, Bastion, grab on. He's like, fuck y'all. Like, just accepting, all right, this is who I am. I'm not going to go with you and become an X-Man and become a good. No, this is who I am. You know, shit fucked up. So deuces.
Right.
Deuces.
Well, he jumped for them, though. He did jump for them and try to go for them at the very end of it. Once he realized, like, I'm pretty done here.
Did he? I thought he just jumped right into the black hole or whatever it was.
No,
I
he was
gotta
jumping
rewatch
towards
it.
them.
Oh, we don't have to pull. Oh, we don't have to pull it up. I'm gonna have to see that again.
But to your point with Bastion, like he absolutely like he's also made very like notable lines like when he say, "I'm just born this way." Right now, how many times you hear that? And so I've always been born. I've been born this way, but in a way where, again, not I'll talk about the agenda. It's just about being who you are. I've been this the whole my entire life, and now it's like I've been conditioned. I've been programmed since birth to to destroy you. And even then, when he does sadistic things like turning his own mother to a sentinel, and then when she dies, or or get EMP'd, whatever, and carrying her, you seeing that he's crying. Mind you, he did this to his mother and he's crying. So this again, and that's the thing where it's like, this is you have a villain who is a villain by choice. You have two villains, because I guess you have Magneto, who's the anti-hero or whatever, but villain. But then you also have Bastion, who are also villain by circumstance.
We'll come back to this.
And environment. There's two types, there's two types of things. Like you have the villain by choice and the villain by circumstance or environment, right? Magneto was because of the sense of humanity, and he had Bastion by also the sin of humanity, trying to find a distinct the extinction of for mutants and everything, created by Sentinels, who also saying that we have to save, also not just just eradicate mutants, we have to save humans from themselves, which is also humans' own creation with Trask Industries and everything. Again, and it breaks it down, especially with Magneto's like, listen, I've done it your way, Professor X, and I am done, and it goes into the whole, again, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King mindset, which I always go back to. But back then, we're talking about, even then, how do we operate life? When we operate decision, are we being extremists? Or are we saying, oh no, I'm not messing with you guys. I know your nature. I know what you do. And so I'm not going to go down this path again and everything. And I got to protect my own, right? And and then even when it came to, what's it, the doctor, the lady, the senator, the blonde lady that was helping them and everything. And then when she actually freed Magneto, she was telling Bastion, like, the biggest thing about Genosha was when it got eradicated, no one was surprised. Like stuff like that is we're talking about.
So many bars. There was
so
bars.
So many.
We definitely got to talk about X-Men Evolution, but I want to do this, and then let's talk about our favorite bars, and then we'll close on X-Men Evolution. So this was the scene. We have it muted, but this is when everything's blown up and everything's getting sucked into the core, right? And he hunkers down, and then Cyclops is like, Bastion, grab on. And he looks, and he's like, ugh. Scoffs, and he's like, fuck that. And he just jumps right, and then look where Cyclops is looking, like, where you going, bro? He's like, fuck all of this. This is who I am. Like,
I must have got that wrong. I thought Cyclops and them were on the other side of that when he was reaching out.
He did offer to help, and which also was Cyclops too, which, they're definitely different ages of the X-Men comics, him as a leader, when he, changes as a person, is that when he's talking about he offering for help, also going against Professor X, and saying like, listen, you abandoned us and now you give the team to Magneto, and here we are. And so I had to give up my son and everything and all this stuff. Like and I'm supposed to be the leader of this team and stuff like that. Like, fuck that, you know? And then when we get into other ages of in X-Men comics, like the Krakoa era, when, you know, when Phoenix and stuff, he knows what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, so like there's certain things where
It's good. It'll come
Cyclops,
out. I'll figure it out eventually.
right. There's certain ways that Cyclops can go, but I did appreciate that they spent time on him turning his relationship with Cable, because the comics, it did come across as, oh yeah, he's gone, all right, forget it, you know, back in mind and everything. They spent their time with it, and leading to season 2, which you tease at the end. Yeah, that's definitely going to expand, especially with Cable and the you know, in the timeline there are.
Yeah,
With,
I mean, just
X-Men.
just the moment before, like, they both go to say goodbye, and Professor X is communicating with Cyclops and talking about Cable. He hurt him, and like that fatherly, like, oh shit, you kind of care about that. So I do want to end on our favorite bars from the season, because there was so many. I don't think we're going to be able to remember it all. But before we go there, I forgot X-Men Evolution was even a thing. I loved X-Men Evolution. The way that this goes back to, you know, what we were talking about you know, the reset and how they kind of burned the characters, and the X-Men Evolution was such a good way to create character. Not, well, I don't know if they were created, but again, for somebody who's not into comics, introduce characters that were slightly different than the original guys. But it was still in the same tone, and it worked, because again, I think that the story of X-Men as an analog for so many different things, it just works.
Yes. Yeah, again, what I'm talking about with each episode of the show, and you talk about the pacing, like the storylines they're compacting for streaming, unlike a show like Secret Invasion, which was freaking horrible, and like not just destroyed, decimated an entire story arc. In comics, that was an Avengers movie storyline, and they destroyed that in 6 episodes.
So good.
I'll never forgive them for that. But with that, it's like you're watching an episode out of a week and everything. You're like, okay, is this that really need to wait a week for this to see the next one? And then it's also sometimes you might, in previous serialized television, you get like a villain of the week, you know, like the Flash, you know, on CW and stuff like that, right? No, this show gave you enough meat in 23 episodes, and to wait, like, that was a lot, but I'm ready for next week. You know, and that's how you do a serialized like television in like 6 to 10 episodes. But we lost that now with especially with Disney, what they do, where they give you a big event in episode 5, and then in the final finale of 6, it just rushed, right? And they're just trying to wrap up the show with loose ends and stuff like that. And you basically like, that's it, really? Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Shout out to Arrow, said comics were the bomb. Welcome to the party. We were saying how even though I'm not a comic book reader, these guys definitely are, and we all think that this show was amazing. Dylan said, according to the showrunners of Evolution, if the show lasted another season, they would have brought in the Dark Phoenix.
They always do. They always have to.
That's the peak of the peak of the peak. So I want to go, just go down the line, and we don't have to catch all of them, but some of your favorite bars. I'll start with right here. Y'all already know. Actually, let's back this up so we get in. So they're all fighting. You know, you don't really need to know the context, but Magneto is about to do some shit that he ain't supposed to do, and everybody trying to be like, "Yo, chill." And obviously, we can't have Son. God damn it! You didn't see that. All right, take 2. He's like, you're a traitor to your race.
Shout out to Onslaught.
Bam! Claws through the gut.
Oh my God.
And then
I've been through many wars. The brave are always the ones that die.
Many wars, Bubs. The brave always die first. I want to get that,
which is a line that Magneto said in the original series.
Oh,
so
really?
Yes.
Oh, right. Yes. I want to get a tattoo with that. And so again, of course, Magneto is the metal guy.
This
I did not know that this could be a thing. Again, obviously, it's a very famous comic book panel, but I did not know that this could be a thing. No, Magnus, for the love of God, don't do this.
God, I
Oh
wish they would have animated
my
that.
God. Yeah, but I do think it worked in terms of the lasting impact. I think
Mhm.
it would have been a little again, I agree. I would have loved to see that. But I think my favorite line of the entire thing, I think it was in episode 1 or 2. And they're talking, Magneto's taking over the school and whatever. And it was like shortly after that, I think he's talking to Charles or Scott or whoever. And they're talking about being gods. And Magneto, again, I'm an atheist. So Magneto goes, gods abandon those who believe in them. Mutants don't. Hey, yo! Hey, yo! Fucking Mars!
Yes.
And then the one other one that I remember off the top of my head was in the finale when the two of them are talking in the bar, and he's just like, what was it? The notion that I can't remember what it is. One of you guys go. All right, go on sec. What's your give me a bar?
So that scene where they're in the bar in the finale, and my favorite line, just because I feel like Disney, this is a dig at Disney, where Magneto is saying, everybody's already the best at everything already. We're the best,
I was looking for the same thing.
Yeah, whatever
So-
it is that he says, we're the best this, we're the best that. People even compete to see who are the best victims.
Right. Yeah. And so this scene, if you're not familiar, it's just a flashback to when they were younger. They're talking about it. And again, a good woke scene in the sense that it is supposed to be or very well maps very well onto two dudes who are friends who happen to be gay, who don't know that each other's gay, and like, you like dick? Maybe I like dick. If you like dick, I like dick. But it's so
Somebody
far away
clip
from
that, put it on World Star.
and so specifically, they're talking about humans versus mutants. And if they exist, why wouldn't they use their abilities? And Magneto's like, why wouldn't they use their ability to make their the world better? Like, people don't want it to be better. They're already the best at everything. Best tribe, best faith. They even fight over who's the best victim.
Yeah, I love that line. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I was like, what the fuck? They really put this in here?
Fucking based. And so if you want to say, okay, yeah, because Morph was like, oh, Wolverine's in the shower. If you want to say this is a woke show, go ahead. The themes are so based that it's like I mean
the themes are universal. The themes
Yeah.
are universal. Like
Oh,
the fact that it's not tied to a particular group, but it's saying, which is what the Xmen, even then go back to Stanley, what he's saying, like, no, you were reflect the Marvel universe is what you see outside your window. However, when we were writing comics, showing representing people in the X-Men, basically, of the civil rights movement and everything, we weren't just beating you over the head over it. We were just making this relatable to anybody that felt abandoned, which is universal. People have felt abandoned once in their life, been rejected once in their life for being who they are. And those things where I felt is what the X-Men more than any other team, really. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, which they try to make like, oh, you're the misfits. Like, no, the original one with the X-Men,
that's a good point.
Yeah, because the Guardians were outlaws. They were the criminals who now turn good.
How did you feel about how they closed that Guardians of the Galaxy?
I thought it was I thought it was decent. Now, I think it was the best thing in the world. No, but I thought it was a breath of fresh air at the time it came out, and gave a very good ending to that team, in a way where everyone was having their happy ending, knowing where they came from, especially low people who suffer from abuse. Like, I definitely related to, like, Rocket, not saying anybody abused me, but like medically, like when I was growing up and stuff. And just like, now I'm in a life now where I have the freedom and like I'm healed right now, and and stuff, and I relate to that where it's now like he's happy, but now he's knowing where he put his pain in from growing up, from where he felt abandoned and everything like that. And so I felt they wrapped it up very well, and people go on their individual arcs and stuff like that. But going with terms of quote for the show, the one was where Magneto came in and at the UN after Storm lost her powers and actually brought the entire UN into orbit, right? And calling them ants, have you beneath my boot and everything, and saying, please do not please do not make me let you down.
Yes.
So
So
and
many.
while he's crying, right? And as Madeline Pryor is giving birth at that time, at the same time, that was just talking about like, listen, like look at this planet full of people and everything, and yet here I am with this immense power, and I have you underneath my boot, and it's
So
like I could do it, but I made a promise to a friend of mine, right, to be better, right? Now was that now later was he abandoned that? Absolutely,
he tried. He tried.
With you after all that shit. Damn.
Right.
I'm with Magneto. I'm a Magneto. I mean, I definitely respect Professor X, but I don't think I would be. I mean, I don't know if I could see that and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go against that guy.
Bro, my other favorite line out of this was when they were telling Magneto on Genosha, we don't want a terrorist to become a leader, and then he says, it's so weird because you guys often let your leaders become terrorists.
So many bars. So many bars. And all throughout. I mean, again, if you have not watched it, if you have been thinking about watching it, if you've been whatever, I mean, I don't want to tell you to go watch it, because if you have, the like Guamtek, what you were saying about the animation, I think that's a stupid thing to think, but to each their own. It's art. We all have our own interpretation. And so I don't want to, shout out to Daniel Cabrera. We were going to, after we were talking like mid-season, and I thought he would be, huge into it. He's a big MCU fan. But like many people after Endgame, when everything sucked, then he fell off and lost faith. And so when and again, as somebody who has been hopeful this whole time, I'm like, well, WandaVision's not that bad. And like, I mean, I thought Loki was great, but
yes,
I thought What If was pretty cool. But all the other shows, it's like, all right. I mean, I was entertained for the time, but I definitely didn't need that. And the fact is that again, we're just getting to a place where we can turn things around. And Mike, if you're saying they already working on that, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. I am very, very, very excited for the future.
Yeah. I mean, and the little caveat to that with the animation thing is, I will repeat again, it was only the first episode that I felt that way, that the animation was a little off. But as the series goes on, and I know a lot of people said this, that like, oh, the animation wasn't that great and stuff. And it's like, how many episodes did you watch? Because once it starts getting to like the second and third episode, it's like, bro, now I know why they're doing this, because they need to focus on the animation is based off of the powers and what is going on around them. It isn't based off of like, I'm going to make a character and make them look iconic and just make it a perfect face. And to be honest, I felt like they were trying to add to everything around them other than just the characters. Like we already know the characters, but that first episode, man, that moment that Magneto turns around, when they're in the office, it just did not.
We watched it together, and I was like, I don't see it. But that is what was I going to say? The quality of that is, talking about, focused around the powers. I mean, I'm just gonna take your word for it. I'll assume you, as somebody who watches, like anime and more animated stuff. But I felt like the part of it was trying to keep the feel, the vibe, the campiness of the original '90s show. And so, like I mean, despite the bars that we just listed, some of the dialogue is a little bit clunky. but I liked it that way because that's how the show was. And so at first I was like, but then when it like they kept doing it, I was like, oh, this is purposeful. This is to be nostalgic, and it worked. And so I don't know. I think not perfect, but 9.5 out of 10. Guamtek, you got a rating?
I'm gonna definitely at least give it. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Fair
I can give it that, just with how well they did, the fact that they can make it accessible to so many people, the fact that it is X-Men. This is not trying to just like cram something down your throat that it isn't. And the fact that they were able to like really humanize these characters and make you care about them. All that said, and the animation, I thought it was great.
Except the first episode.
Except the first episode.
All right, fair enough. Jedi Mike, do we got a rating from you for the whole season?
Yeah, I usually don't give 10 out of 10s for anything. I think that's fair. It's unfair to say a film, even like I love Dune. Dune is not a 10 out of 10 film. It's an amazing film, but you can't say a film is perfect because there's gonna be some flaws. Can it be any improvement? Absolutely. But I'll say with this though, definitely I'll give it a 9 out of 10, mainly because I want this show to have impact theatrically where it matters. And this is also to non-comic fans, because I even asked theater owners back at CinemaCon is that this is almost anime writing on a cartoon show, on a cartoon Marvel show. If you watch anime,
I have no idea what that means.
So the type of the type of deaths and the types of deaths and the traumatic experiences and stuff crazy to happen in a single episode for anime, that's normal for people, anime watchers. Like, oh yeah, this person could die, whatever, or something traumatic might happen, whatever, or a revelation or something like that. But you really have not seen that on a consistent basis on just a regular average animated Marvel show,
where they're doing like big things every episode.
Right. And the pacing of that in each episode in just terms of 10 in one single season. That's why I made reference to anime, because we've all seen crazy stuff happen, Demon Slayer, whatever, you can name it, that consistently do traumatic things, only 10, 20, like 20 minutes or something, like episodes and stuff. So that's why I use that reference in terms of that, because in the movies, you need to have that impact where you care and about these characters. That at the end of this season, if you are not an X-Men fan, I can't see how you cannot care about any of these characters individually, but also care about them more because you realize they are family, and each of these people have their own traumatic experiences in which you watch real time, right? And each operating on a different way. And even when they do make certain decisions, you might, whether you agree or disagree, you understand why, which is what humanity is supposed to be.
Relating back to the anime thing too, the cliffhangers and payoffs were amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I agree. And I'm just saying this is hopefully is a show also just in terms of how to deal with diverse characters, how to deal with certain balancing of different types of characters, male characters, female characters of color, whatever.
Smart characters, angry characters, not just about their skin color or their gender or their sexuality. Yeah, actually diverse. Diverse.
Right. And make a base template of what any show, movie is just based on the writing. And also the execution and decision makers saying, listen, no, we're going to send this out, whatever. We want to see the base stories. Like, are we going back to the foundation of who these characters are, not trying to serve an agenda, what we want to say? What have these characters been saying for over decades in comics? And now we get to share this in medium. That's why I'm saying I want this to have impact cinematically. Now, you're not going to be here tomorrow. Not going to be here next week. Well, hopefully in July, we'll see. Hopefully. But the only time I hope we can, believe that. But yeah, 9 out of 10.
Word up. Well, thank you so much for joining. You really punched this up. We got an insider here. Really do appreciate it. We are going to close it down, but those of you who are channel members, of course, we are headed right over to the after party. Jedi Mike, if you want to come through, I got you on them perms.
I'd love to hear that backstage talk a little bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So before we call out our comments on the night and donations, Jedi Mike, if anybody didn't hear, who are you? What do you do? And where can people find you?
All right, so my name is Michael. I'm also known as Jedi Mike. I'm also a film critic. I review movies, TV shows, but I'm also part of press, so I do interviews. I do interviews for conventions, interviews in terms of doing press screenings with actors and directors. So that's what I do, coverage of film, TV, entertainment, and everything. So you can find me on YouTube and on Instagram at Jedi Mike 7. And I'm slowly growing out, my YouTube and everything. My Instagram definitely been getting strong and stuff. But make sure you find one platform. The link is all connected to all platforms and everything. So I appreciate, Indian Najee has been a good friend of mine for a minute and everything. And I also congratulations on success of your platform and stuff. I remember where it was and where it is now and everything. But I just want to say I commend you just in terms of, how content creators can just switch up and, try to serve something, whatever, just not being people of base integrity. And I just want to say, since I've been knowing you, I just appreciate just watching your content, being that and not, being swayed. And so I just appreciate you, man. Keep on staying course.
Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that. I do. I dropped the link to Jedi Mike's channel in the chat. Please go give him a subscription. Thank you again so much for joining us, brother. If you are you part of the Discord?
I believe so.
All right, send me a DM, and I'll make sure you got the perms if you want to join the after party, whether tonight or anywhere else. Thank you again, brother. We will see you around. Peace. Guamtek, my boy. Shout out to Joe Mama. Said cool show, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Trying to do something a little bit different, a little bit low key. Not a lot of people here, but you got to start it. If you build it, they will come. So, the idea of Pop Culture Friday doesn't really fall in line with what the channel is, but it's gonna. So even though we didn't have a lot of chats, I don't think we got above 4 concurrent viewers on YouTube, but that's all right. That's all right. We're building, and this is just the we had the bad sound last time. This is really the first one that we're actually diving into having a real pop culture conversation. So Guamtek, I want to thank you so much for hanging out and doing this with me. I would not have been able to do this on my own. I mean, Jedi Mike definitely didn't help us out a lot.
Oh, for sure.
So did you.
Yeah, and like I was saying, man, this is like really crazy because like this is the one time that I think I've ever actually got to have my nerd knowledge actually come in handy. So
and we needed it. I needed it for sure. So thank you so very, very much. Any last words for the people?
Yeah, just stay curious out there, man. Like, get into shit that you really love, stick with it, and when it gets hard, just fucking stay with it, because if you love it enough, it'll take you somewhere good.
Beautiful. All right, well, I am gonna knock you out of here, close down the show, and we are headed to the after party again, guys. If you are not a member, sign up and join. It's just $2.99 a month, and you get access to all of the Discord server. But even if you're not a member, you can join for free. And just hang out and chat with us. So Guamtek, I'm sure you are headed right over there. I'm going to do the same. But thank you again for hanging out, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. It's fun.
Peace. All right. Virgil, you were being mean. You know that he was not mocking the dead. You know that's not what he was saying. Troll the people that we know that you're trolling. Come on, man. Come on. And no heart on the video either. You're trolling my guests. You're trolling my co-host, my panelists, and I can't even get a heart on the video. Well, I don't care about that, because I got my boy, the Reverend Woodrow Goodshine Ministries, coming through not only with 1, but 2 $10 super chats that really came through for me. As so doing something different is always it's always going to take a while to catch on. All of you guys who are normal here for like the normal show when we're breaking down something and whatever. I was doing that long before you found me. There wasn't nobody in the chat. So shout out to any one of you guys who have been listening, and shout out to the replay gang. Especially if you made it this far in the replay, I really do appreciate it. Put something in the comments below that lets me know you made it this far, and I will give you a big thank you. No, we ain't letting that stand, bro. What he said was that when Christopher Reeves fell off the horse, Superman did not. We are talking about the context of recasting a character when the actor dies. So Chadwick Boseman died. King T'Challa did not die. There is no reason to get rid of that character. And so the point was that even though this great man, Christopher Reeves, died, that doesn't mean that we ended Superman. Do you know who Henry Cavill is? Exactly. That was the point. So thank you again, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Once again, shout out to the Reverend Woodrow, Good to Shine Ministry. Shout out to Jedi Mike and Guamtek. Definitely check out Jedi Mike. Put the the link is in the chat. And guys, I've been doing a lot more of the vertical stream, so make sure you hit that subscribe and ring the bell, because as much as I am doing these shows every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, I am also going to be doing more vertical streams whenever. Likely tomorrow, definitely on Sunday, and it's going to be whenever. So again, hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's head on over to the after party. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Once again, Morty is gone, but I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, oh, wait, is there? Well, I did listen to what I said. You didn't listen to what I said. Until next time, we are out of here. Peace.